Hi everyone, thank you for joining the March 2023 VMware TAM customer webinar. This webinar is run by the VMware TAM organization to provide our customers the opportunity to hear great content and interact directly with VMware experts, with the goal of making sure that you are getting the full benefit from your software. Before we get into today's content, there are just a couple of basic announcements. This webinar is being recorded and your TAM can make the recording link available to you. After a few months, the recording will be publicly available on the VMware TAM Services YouTube channel, which you can access using the QR code or the URL in the top right of this slide. We do want you to benefit from these sessions by interacting with our speaker, so if you have any questions during today's session, please do use the Q&A feature of Zoom and we will look to address them during the webinar. If your question doesn't get answered today, please do reach out to your TAM and ask them to follow up. At the end of the session, you will be asked to fill out a simple survey related to the value that you received from today's session and any topic suggestions for future sessions. Your completion of this survey is a really valuable gift back to us and we'd really appreciate it if you could fill that in. And lastly, our next TAM customer webinar will be taking place on April 13th, where we will be joined by cloud solution architects Brian Lewis and Brock Peterson to review infrastructure costing with ARIA operations and ARIA cost. So that brings us to today's webinar, where we are joined by Jeff Ulatoski, Product Line Manager for VMware End User Computing, to talk us through apps on demand. So over to you, Jeff.
Great, thanks for having me. Today I'm excited to be talking to you about applications or apps. We've seen quite a bit of a need from our customers around applications, and it isn't something new. We've always had that need. I think we've just been giving it a significant amount of attention right now, and we've heard from our industry experts as well that apps are making a big shift. We've seen also with our partners a bit of an app renaissance, as they've said, as we look at applications. One of the things that I think is really key is to make sure that we can address those applications. So just to give you a little bit of background of who I am, I came to VMware about 10 years ago almost. Gosh, it's been a decade already. And I've been here and I've been pretty much focused on apps. I came in as part of the Cloud Volumes acquisition, which is an older rendition of our technology, as well as prior to that, I spent about a decade, I guess I do them in chunks, at Amgen, which is a pharmaceutical company. And I was reporting to a director of applications pretty much through my whole tenure, and helping to own major systems that we used in manufacturing and quality, as well as smaller applications for our instrument controllers and managing a buckshot of applications there as well. And spent a lot of time really understanding what it means to put processes in place, especially in an FDA controlled organization. That's pretty critical to understand that you're doing things with control. And obviously, we're always trying to find ways to speed that up while still maintaining control, because it can be a bit time consuming. So we were looking at all these different areas and technologies. Spent a lot of time managing that, everything from Pixie Boot to Microsoft Store, our Windows Store. And even before that, I spent time writing applications. So I've kind of done a bit of everything. I spent a lot of time as a developer, and that's actually how I came over to VMware as well. Actually writing applications, building systems in multiple languages and working through that, packaging those applications, getting those applications out to the end users in one form or another, whether it was through through websites or whether it was through actual thick client applications and server installs. So there's been a lot of experience there, seeing a lot of different aspects of it. And when I show you a little bit later about how we're looking at that life cycle, I think it'll start to make sense on why we think there's a big need here and why there's a big focus. So the thought of the agenda today was I wanted to talk a little bit about modern management, just so we're hopefully on the same page what modern management is. And again, feel free to ask any questions that come up, but also talk a little bit about apps on demand, which is our new technology that we've been building over the last year. Super exciting. We just released in January the published apps version of that, and that's been super exciting for us because we're doing some things with 25-year-old technologies like Metaframe had put in place and really kind of taking that to the next level, which is great to disrupt something that's that ingrained. And then talk a little bit about packaging and why what we're doing is not packaging, but allows you to do what you would do normally for packaging without having to go through the cumbersome steps. And so first off, just to really kind of level set on what, this is my personal take on things. Without all of these things in place, it's really hard to get your apps to your users. I suppose they could try and drink from the stream there and get their apps that way. But the idea is we see that apps are the things that the users are actually consuming. They're the way that the things that users are actually looking to get. The desktop is a way for us to house those applications and be able to present them to the user. And the clients that we use are the ways that we actually bring that app to the user. And then, of course, settings is your differences in the apps. And so you can maybe have ice, or you can have a lemon, or whatever it may be for your application that lets you feel and get the productivity that you need. So all of these things are very important, and we focus on those things when we're working on delivering to users. And one of the things that we've been really thinking about here, and this is a work in progress for us, more of a kind of a vision, is that as we start to commoditize the different areas here, you can see I've got desktops. We used to just say desktops and apps and say, well, do apps the way you normally do them and then help you with your desktop. But we really started to want to understand and how we can best help you with all of your applications and address that. And so our goal here right now is to make sure that we can let you manage the things that are most important to you at whatever level that you'd like to be able to do that. So this is really about choice and being able to help where we can by either VMware or our managed partners or our IaaS partners. So if you look at what we're doing with apps everywhere, and this is a phrase that we've been using internally a lot and externally a bit as well. We've been hanging things on it from a marketing perspective, but the idea is that apps everywhere is our strategy, because when we first started working with app management and as a feature of Horizon and app volumes, we realized we were really focused on delivery. What can we do to make the desktop better? How can we get those apps to the desktop? How can we help instant clones? How can we help those things work better? And so we really focused on delivery most of the time, and we still do, and I'll explain that a little bit later, but we focused on delivery and then entitlement as we started bringing app volumes for all the simplified app management, where we could do more with entitlement, but still kind of focus on entitlement, and then packaging, and not too much on packaging, but just thinking kind of in general, hey, we got the right tool to help you get your things packaged. So there's really kind of limited to that. And then we brought in markers for rollback, and we started realizing that let's take a look at all of these activities. What are these things that our end users are actually, and our end users are all of our users, whether they're admins or end users, are actually doing? And that's how we came up with this idea that we can take different features and build features, but really what we're looking at is who is using those things. What are the needs and the pain points of each of these individuals, and how can we make tools that help them work better together? And so you'll see things like desktop admins in the field, where desktop admins end up having to play a concert for all the app admins that want to make changes, or the security folks that are coming in saying, we need to make updates to these apps because there's issues here. And so desktop admins end up being a choke point for all of this. And what we really want to do is alleviate that and provide the right tools so that app admins can see what's happening with their applications, make changes, package apps, work with apps. Desktop admins can manage the OS and make sure that they got the right updates in place for the operating systems, and then enable their super users to be able to maybe do some UAT testing and provide feedback and have better relationships with their line of business app owners, show them where the stages are when rollouts are happening for certain applications, and really work with the business. And then have these other responsibilities like help desk, which play a very important role, but typically a very general role as generalists can be able to perform functions without having to have a depth of knowledge of, oh, this app should be done this way or this app should be done that way. If they could just assign an app and move forward, they can handle a lot more volume of requests that are coming in. And then, of course, the end users, making sure that we've got the end users taken care of. So these are the areas that we're focusing. These are the activities that we've seen when managing the application lifecycle cycle. And we want to make sure that we're giving you the right, discovery. You can find those applications. You can get them into a package as simple as an MSI, maybe being the older type of packaging, and all those new modern formats that we have, like app volumes and MSIX app attach and things like that. Being able to test those, whether it's testing it, getting the UAT testing, being able to entitle it to all users, some users, different versions, different apps to different users, deliver them in multiple ways, whether they're as a full desktop or as a published app on demand, and being able to roll those back instantly, being able to give you that telemetry of what apps are actually being used by users, so that feeds back into discovery. And then for self-service, being able to enable the end users most effectively to make the requests they need and get the work done that they need to get done. So this is our vision. This is where we're going. And the technology that's helping us to make that happen, one of those components is called app volumes. And it's very important because we talked about desktop admins and those different roles. Those different roles now, with those things separated, can work independently. Working together a lot of times means working independently, not having to all be in the same room at the same time to get stuff done, but being able to work independently when it makes sense, and then being able to coordinate when it's needed. And I'll show you that as we go through these demos that I have set for you, these features that we're putting in place, what that actually means. So that leads me into apps on demand, which is going to be the meat of our discussion for today. It's a very very exciting topic for me because this is something that's changing that 25-year-old technology. I was talking to one of the CTO of Remo3, which is helping us with, they're one of our top partners, helping us with some of the automation testing. And we were on a call with their CEO, and I said, I hope I'm not building this up too much. I hope I'm not. And he said, you know what? You sometimes can, build up something too much, and you go see the movie and you're like, that's all right. But after seeing this, he said, wow, this really is a game changer. You really are changing a fundamental technology of multiple decades. So as we look at first VDI, apps on demand is a technology that we introduced to say, why are we delivering all these apps to a user on their machine and building these machines, whether it's ahead of time with images or whether even doing it with app volumes at login? Why are we giving them all these apps? And the answer is because they need access to them. They need to be able to click on them. They need to be able to launch them. But if I could give them that on a clean Windows machine, and then only when they actually clicked on them or launched a file through file type associations or used a registered app path, like typing in 7zfm.exe, and then it would deliver that application in real time and launch it, you could have very minimalist computer sessions running for your users with very clean, and everybody knows the best version of Windows is the freshly installed version of Windows, for those of you who have installed Windows over the years. You can see here that I'm able to actually do all the functions that I would expect here for a user without the app actually installed. So Office is not on this machine, but we're in the back, we're delivering Office, and yes, we can package Office. You can see here, Word is coming to the machine and is launching as part of Office. And so now we've actually delivered the full package of Office and launched Word. And now subsequent launches will be there. You can have it there and available for you. But the idea here is I can build these machines, and now Windows has become a commodity. It's really been something that's kind of just there just to launch apps, which is what it's really supposed to be there for. You can see those two packages delivered. I had we were at an offsite with our engineers, and I said, in kind of joking, I said, Windows without apps is just Notepad, Calculator, and Solitaire, maybe Minesweeper. And they all kind of chuckled, because really it's about the apps. It's about getting the apps to the users. And so if we can deliver those apps in real time, I mean, it's like one-click shipping here, 2-day shipping, or next day shipping, or even same-day shipping, right? It's actually same-minute shipping almost. So this is the goal for us, is to really meet the needs of our users who are used to being able to browse stores and get things when they need them, and be able to actually deliver them to a running VM in real time. No waits for downloads, no copying those bits over to C drive, no need to use up all that storage on that C drive for these disks, because we'll share that same app across thousands of machines. And it's not streaming to that app. It's actually running natively in Windows. So you get all the same capabilities of shared registry keys, COM, all of that is available for those applications. Now, if we take this VDI technology that we just had and showed you, this is really just a Windows technology, right? If we take that same technology and we bring it over to RDSH, a lot more can happen. So before I start just showing you a demo of what it looks like on RDSH, let's take a look at what actually is happening, or let's take a look at the actual problem that's happening there today. And why I think that this technology, even though it's there, and for those that absolutely need it, it's there, but users aren't actually, or companies aren't fully deployed on these solutions. They use them as point solutions for tender spots a lot of times, and the reason is because the idea of these servers is that they're actually becoming special siloed servers for specific apps. And so we found that the siloing of these applications happens because of the fact that there's lifecycle management for these applications. They want to have specific use cases. And so they start thinking about what users are going to use which apps, and you're going to start to divide them amongst user groups. Maybe that happens naturally in the organization. Maybe it's a little bit more challenged and forced. But what I found is that I don't even know what apps I'm going to use on a day-to-day basis. I couldn't imagine asking an admin to app rationalize that across thousands of users. How could we figure out exactly what usage is going to be? So what ends up happening is we end up using some of the compute because we're actually saving it for peak usage. And for particular apps, if you've gone and actually created these delivery groups, or what we call farms in Horizon. And so if you can see here, then the idea of app management becomes updating images and making sure that you've got, kind of the images set up, whether you're doing it with layering, or you're having these technologies where you're trying to update. You end up changing the image and then draining your users off, or maybe you just boot them off. But it comes with a whole bunch of challenges that make it difficult to manage. And so what we've done is we've said, how can we do this a lot cleaner? Well, if we take that same technology with apps on demand, we can, and that technology I showed you, where you can basically lift the apps above the OS and manage them separately by even a different group, or it could be the same group, just at a different time. You are able to bring those apps to the machine on demand, just like I showed you. The difference is now we support multi-session. So we have the ability to be able to do this on an RDSH server. And what we did with multi-session is you can even have different apps to different users. So if you were able to do file open and VLC media player, the blue user there, if I was able to, in the middle, click on VLC media player, I wouldn't see Office or Slack. I would only see VLC media player in program files. So the idea is that we're actually isolating the apps, not within the session, but per user. So for example, if I wanted to click on more applications, I'm going to have those apps on demanded to the session, just like I showed you in VDI for those users. And so you can actually use, again, Windows like a commodity to ship these applications to your users. And the users don't even have to go to a start bar anymore. They can just click on the app right out of their client or their catalog and launch the app and get right to the app. And the idea here is then, from a scalability perspective, we can just add more servers as needed to meet the user's need. And that's based on the number of users, not so much based on the number of users multiplied by the number of applications and trying to figure out some kind of more complex formula for scalability. So this is something that I'd like to show in a demo form. So I can actually show you what this looks like as a demo. And so if we look at selecting a couple of applications we're able to take those 4 applications and provide them to the users. This is a Horizon client running on Windows. Not that exciting that I can make a Windows application launch on Windows, but if you know the remote apps technology, whether it's Citrix virtual apps, whether it's Horizon apps, you can see I've got the technology that allows me to stream that application down. So I don't have a desktop inside a desktop. There's no start bar, a double start bar. We got one because it's Windows, but you can see I'm able to launch those applications. Likewise, if I'm on an Apple, I could go to give these to a Mac user. And the idea behind giving them to a Mac user is then they can access their applications on whichever device they'd like to. So maybe they have a bring your own device, or they're sitting at home. They've got their Mac that they've had for years, and they're just able to launch those applications. And again, very securely separated from your environment, you've got those apps launching as applications that the user would expect. You can still see the square corners, but if you look at the top bar up there, you can see Adobe Acrobat Reader as an app. It looks like a Mac app with square corners. And what's really neat is because we're bringing these apps together in the session, instead of having multiple sessions across multiple servers for different apps, when I do help about, it's actually going to launch that application right in a tab. And you can see it here. It's launched it as the user would expect. Now, we're not doing anything special here. All we're doing is bringing the apps together like they're supposed to be, instead of splitting them across different farms or delivery groups. And so the idea here is to be able to give an even better user experience. So by bringing these apps together, they will work together. That's just one example of integration. There's maybe shared register keys, COM, plugins. All those things will work because of our technology brings those apps together on the same session, and they work together natively as opposed to isolated from each other within the session. Now let's take this a step further, see how this is actually done on the server. So as these apps are being launched, you can see I'm getting the VMDKs or VHDs attached to the machine. So as a user clicks on, for example, Acrobat, you'll get the Acrobat VMDK. It'll show up in the session in Windows, and then it will launch on the user's endpoint device and stream down. Same with Chrome on the session, and then launched on the Windows laptop. So you're able to bring those applications together to each user within the session. Now, we're not going to deliver the app twice. So if both users, for example, if they click open Notepad++ and they launch it, we're going to deliver the VMDK once, and we're going to build the server as needed dynamically, and then we're going to launch that app in both user sessions. So we're going to work very efficiently in that case as well. And what about a mobile device? I don't know if you've ever tried to go on a Windows desktop from a mobile device because you just need to get to an app really quick. You're trying to open pinch and hit that start bar and hope you don't hit 3 or 4 other things with your thumb as you're trying to do it, or your index finger. If we can bring those applications full screen, yes, we're not rewriting the application so that they work in a web browser or on a mobile app. But what we are doing is, or at least full screen those apps, they click on the icon, they go straight to the app, something they're very familiar with, and they get a much better experience for that application on their mobile device. So we see this as really enabling also mobile devices. This technology has been here for 25 years with MetaFrame, but the clients have continually improved. They've gotten better. They work great on the end devices now, even mobile. And then on top of that, we've improved the way those apps are being delivered. And that's the new piece here you see, where you don't have to worry about the infrastructure side, which has been a big challenge for our admins. Now, if I take a look at the current state of things here, you'll see I have Firefox here in 108 assigned. So I'm going to show you a similar version of what we just looked at there with Firefox 108 as the current version. So you can see it there. 108 is the current version. Now, this is where we can do a little bit more around lifecycle management to make it even easier for your RDSH servers. So I've got version 108 on that machine. Now, let's say I log off. What happens? Well, some of those apps that were in use will get ejected because no other users are using them. But Notepad++, if you remember, is one that's still being used because another user is still logged in, the Mac user. So now what if I take that a step further and I want to update Firefox? Well, I come back over to my system, and I'll show you a little bit later how you can actually do an update and how easy it is to package Firefox. But let's show you here currently. If I wanted to do it, I'll create a new package for Firefox, and I've got version 109 now that I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to update that to tested. I'm going to take it through whatever's easy for me to keep track of what's going on. And the most important piece here is now when I'm ready to roll this out, I have everybody assigned to this current marker. So instead of assigning them directly to 108, I have this marker that I can move between versions that allow me to take the users down to 109. And so what that's going to mean is every user that's still using 108, we're not going to change it out from under them. They're in process, right? So you don't have to do this change after hours. You don't have to do any re-imaging of the OS. What'll happen is the next user that logs into any of these servers will automatically get the apps that they click on. And if they click on Firefox, they'll get 109. So now we've actually defied the laws of physics a little bit in Windows. So you can see here we've got Firefox 109 running and 108 running on the same machine. And that's a physics law. Two objects cannot occupy the same time. If you've ever seen on the road when you're driving down a car that maybe tried to do that, it didn't work out well, right? And so you can see here, but we are able to do that because of the fact that they're in disk separate from the operating system. We can present them differently to different users. And we can basically provide those file handles and registry key to the correct piece, even though they think it's on C:\program files Firefox.exe. So this is how we're able to actually evolve a server in real time without what users can do what they do, log in, log off, or click on different apps and launch them. Their behavior doesn't change, but your behavior gets so much easier because you're able to update these apps just by moving that current marker to the next version. So how do we set this up? Well, pretty straightforward. So you can go into Horizon, you can log in as your administrator, and you can set this up by just going into servers and go into App Volumes Manager, just click Add, and go ahead and type in an address. There's a little bit of CA cert work required, so make sure you read the docs on how to install the cert on the App Volumes Manager. But you're able to connect these now together securely. And what you see here is I'm able to associate that App Volumes Manager instance. So this could be a load balanced App Volumes Manager where you can actually connect it. And so now when I go to applications and I click add, I have manually installed, and now newly, I can just add from my App Volumes Manager warehouse. So I've got a warehouse of applications that I can select from, and I can select those and add those in. And that's how we got those apps in there for the demos I just showed you. So it's pretty straightforward to set up these apps. You've got these apps packaged already, and you can just pull them right in. And now if you remember back in my discussion about roles, now your desktop admins can manage the applications here. Your help desk can come in and assign them here. And your app admins can work in App Volumes, and your packagers can use that to create new applications and keep the app lifecycle management moving. And your app owners can see how those apps are being moved and make sure that they're getting done in a timely manner for those particular applications. So everybody can work together in concert. They have the right tools and the right UIs to help them be able to work more effectively. And the most important thing is the users can use what tools make sense to them. They can effectively self-service those applications right out of a catalog, jump straight to the app, skipping the desktop completely, and get the apps that they need by just clicking on them. Now, how does this roll out at scale? So we've been able to, one of the key fundamentals is we wanted to make sure everything is supported. So all the features you're familiar with, cloud pod architecture, making sure that you have the support for that. You're able to set it up so that you can have your Horizon admin talking to one UI and your App Volumes managers using the global application packaging and delivery. We also call it multi-instance. You have the ability to add those target instances to your source instance and create a global deployment. And then that global deployment is able to work locally smartly for performance, but globally from an admin management perspective. So you can go to one place to manage all of these apps and another place to manage how those deliver and all your OS image updates for your RDSH pools. So we've really taken a lot of thought into how to scale this out across the globe. Now, if I take it one step further, This same technology can be used by leveraging the command lines that we have in place. That same technology can be used to actually work with Citrix virtual apps. So let's say you're a Horizon customer on one side, but maybe you're using XenApp or Citrix virtual apps on the other side of the house, and you don't see that changing anytime soon. Totally makes sense. In fact, you may have reasons that it's better for you to use whatever tools that make sense for your organization. And that, coming from IT, I mentioned 10 years in IT, I know what it's like to have to use different tools for different reasons, and more importantly, to transition as well. You can't just change things overnight. So even if you want to go to this other tool, it's going to take you migration and decommissioning and all of those challenges. So with that in mind, I wanted to make sure that we could use this technology with Citrix virtual apps as well. Now, we don't have that integration where you just connect them together and they just pull in all of the apps and you can just click the checkboxes. I wish we could do that, but we don't have that today. Maybe Citrix will want to do that at some point. We'll see. But the idea is that we have here the capability of doing app run, which is what's called underneath the scenes, and that allows us to tell, this is the command line secret for apps on demand. So you can actually do, instead of doing WinSCP in the path to the executable file, we can do app run, the GUID from the App Volumes Manager, which doesn't change when you update the app. This is the GUID for WinSCP, not the GUID for the different versions of WinSCP. So you take that GUID for the application itself, and then you basically pass that as a parameter, and then you pass the executable as a parameter. And what this will do is it'll deliver that app package, that's whichever app package is current or assigned to the user, and then it will automatically launch the application for you. And so what that means is you're able to basically just start an application just like you did on Horizon and use any particular solution that allows you to specify the executable to launch it. Now, I've talked a little bit about delivery. I've talked a lot about delivery. Again, like I said, it's very important for us. And I've talked about lifecycle management, being able to roll forward with the current marker, being able to roll back, the capabilities around separating the apps from the OS, being able to do it for VDI and for published apps. Now, the question is like, what do I have to do for packaging? Is it going to make me do a whole bunch of stuff for packaging? And one of the things that we're focused on is actually making it easier to package so that packaging really is not packaging. Because of the fact that we have a capture technology and because of the way we need the app to be completely installed when it's delivered, we actually don't, there's no complex scripting. We don't have uninstalls. Uninstalls a thing of the past. We don't, and that helps us on WinRot and things like that. But we're able to basically use VMDKs or VHDs to package these applications or capture these applications more specifically. And we have a couple of app cases that are not supported. But what we've seen is about 99% app compat. We've seen a number of customers. We had one customer, 12. They were going to do a POC for 300 apps. They ended up doing 1,200 apps, and they only had 7 service requests to us for apps that needed help. But here are the apps, just to be transparent, the things that wouldn't work, apps that needed a boot time, anything that's specific to a machine, because we're going to go across machines, right? Anything that's specific to a user, we're going to go across users. Anything that's a filter system like driver level, like an antivirus. Our technology works similar to an antivirus in that way. So we obviously would want you to put that in the base and not try and package antivirus. And then finally store apps. And the reason that is because it is tied to the user very specifically, the way Windows store apps work. And so that falls under that same user tied apps, like the ones that require special accounts. There are ways to take this a step further, but we just kind of put this out there. You can do some of these things, and there are ways to do it. But we wanted to make sure you understand that these are the ones that we know are the classes that give you some trouble. That said, that's a very small, I mean, unless you're doing, for some reason, giving Wireshark to your users, or you're trying to do something that's, at boot time, I think you can find that most of your applications, and like I said, 99%, ideally, we can get those apps to your end users. Now, we have different formats that we support as well. So obviously the one that I mentioned was 99% app compat, but we also see an emerging format with Microsoft, the MSIX app attached. we will use that format as well. That format, the way we use that is you just would supplement it with a JSON by running a command to add a JSON file to it so it can be recognized. And so that VHD from MSIX app attach format will also work in app volumes. And we're going to use Microsoft's technology. We're just delivering it with our technology, but to virtualize and to launch that application, we'll use Microsoft's technology. And you can do these side by side. So if you have some apps that come from vendors that are already in MSIX, great. You can bring them in as app attach and we'll use them that way. You have some that are in an app vols format that you've captured, great. We'll do that too. The third option here, similar to how MSIX app attach isolates, ThinApp does isolation as well. So these are in my mind also tools when you want to have something like 2 versions of the same app to the same user. And so you can put them in kind of a bubble, or you don't want apps to be able to see other apps or talk to other apps. That's one of the reasons why we don't do that in app volumes format. That's one of the reasons why we have that 99% app compat, because unlike other formats, we don't isolate. But there are times where you may want to isolate an app. You don't want a plugin from one app to talk to another app for any reason. So those are available to you as options, and we make sure that we're able to embrace all of those. We've got stages and app volumes, as you noticed before, to help you through this process. And there are 3 ways to capture an app. One is with the app capture service in Horizon Cloud. I'll talk to you about that. One is with the app volumes manager, and I'll show you that. And then one is the command line, and I'll give you a slide on that. Actually, I won't be able to show you the app volumes manager today, but I'll show you the command line slide on that. So just a quick demo before the last demo I have for you today. So you can see here, this is what we're doing in this particular demo is we're actually going to use our cloud service to package it out. Again, I'm going to create an app. This is Mozilla Firefox, as I promised we're doing. And you can see here, David is our owner, app owner, maybe in the business, maybe in IT. And then the package that I'm going to do is going to be assigned to James. This allows me to assign packaging. We actually, in our cloud service, will generate VMs for you just for packaging. So you don't have to manage that VM process. We'll generate them. The packager logs in, and basically, as you can see here, they'll go in and they'll do capture. So when they click on that radio button and do capture, they'll be able to get sent right to their client, and they click on their client. And now James can actually package. This could be somebody in the business. It doesn't even have to be an IT person. It could be somebody that's just, it could be an app owner. It could be somebody that is using an app and just wants to package it. So you could send them a VM, let them log in on their client, do the capture, do whatever they want. And then now you've got that asset at the end that's available to you. So it's pretty straightforward to package. As you can see, there's no sequencing, there's no orders, there's no templates, there's none of that. All they do is if they can install an app, they can package. Because really it's not packaging, it's capture. And so this is what we're doing here, is capturing that app. You can even put some notes in if you don't want any, like maybe you change some settings or something like that that you want to keep track of so that everybody knows what's different than a normal install. And then you do one more login in the machine, which gives you that final reboot. This is just for app compat. We want to make sure that if an app does anything, lays it down after reboot, you make sure that's in the package as well. This is just a necessary step we do for app compat. Make sure you get that 99%. And then now if you go back to here, you can see I've got the VHD has been created and it's in a package that's available. Now, if you're into the command lines and you like doing things or creating your own automation, or like our partners are also that I mentioned before, we have Remo 3, Access IT Automation, AppCure. These guys create tools that are built on this command line. And of course, you could do the same if you'd like. This tool allows you to be able to do a very similar thing where I do an app capture exe/new, specify the name of it. Run my silent installer. Maybe there's some templates or MSTs associated with it, and then run the end command. And that basically does that reboot we're talking about. And then the capture command will do some other stuff too. You can go from VHDs to VMDKs and vice versa. This tool will actually generate both of them for you if you'd like. I think it might even do that by default, and you can say no VMDK if you don't want the VMDK. So there's lots of power for you in this command line as well. So this pretty much wraps it up. This is just to conclude. As you saw, we've got a big focus, a lot of tools we're putting in place. I didn't get to talk about all the tools today, but these are the areas that we're focused. These are the things that we're doing to make sure your lives are easier from a desktop admin perspective, from an app admin perspective, and make sure that your end users have the best experience that they would do. So I talked a little bit about today about how we've changed things on VDI with our new capabilities with on demand, and how we isolate that app or abstract that app, but deliver it as not isolated to the environment. I talked about our RDSH capabilities, where we've now changed the way this 25-year-old technology works, and we can make that much more efficient, save you money on hardware and operational efficiency with your admins and the headaches of trying to coordinate image updates, and spend some time talking to you about how easy it is to get it into this package format. It's not going to be a bunch of extra work. And then, as I mentioned, we have those partners out there that can even help with the packaging. They've got tools to help automate packaging, maybe even connect to SCCM and pull those out for you and automatically generate those packages for you. So there's a lot of value that our partners are bringing to the table as well. So I'm really excited to have been able to share this with you. And I hope that we have an opportunity in the future to talk soon. So thank you for your time, and I really appreciate everyone's attendance today.
Thanks, Jeff. Before we close up today's session, I'm just going to give it a minute. We've not had any questions come in through the Q&A. Q&A is still open for the audience, so if you do have any questions, we'll just leave it open for a minute if you had any questions for Jeff. Okay, I'm not seeing anything come through, but thank you so much for your time today. Oh, sorry, Jeff, we have just had a few questions.
Whoa, they all came in.
They're all coming in now.
I wonder if they were stuck or something. Wow, okay.
Cool, so the first one we had was, does this allow for any type of licensing true up?
So that's a good question. So what we're not a licensing technology. However, we are looking into partnering with organizations that help do that. That said, one of the things you might be able to look into is with knowing the usage of your applications, you can maybe, in knowing that they're not actually installed until the user uses it, there might be concurrent user implications that help you on the licensing front. So that's something that, again, VMware doesn't get in the middle, but want to provide as many tools as it can help to create that visibility to what's being used.
Great, thank you. The next one we've had is, what is simple click-through capture package?
What is simple click-through capture package? So I think we're just, as I showed in the demo, what we're talking about there is the ability that you're clicking through the installer. Again, you could use a silent installer. You could do it how scripts. You don't even need an installer. You can just do copy some files to the C drive and registry keys. But the idea is that we record whatever it is you have. So if you do have MSIs that are simple click-through, we'll support that, and you can just go right through. You don't have to do any special batch files or scripts or anything around it to make installs work.
Great, thank you. The next one we have is, do you have to package applications like AppV or MetaFrame to push them?
Yeah, so I think this is again, if we look at the packaging there, you don't have to go through that complex process. It's really, if you're able to install an app once, you're able to deliver it everywhere. So that's the goal there. We don't want you to have to do anything complex to make that happen. There are some advanced tools that if you want to run scripts when the app comes to the machine and things like that, we do provide all that capability. Post app enable both from a user context and a system context. So there are advanced stuff there, but that's really if you've got special activities you want to do with your app when it shows up on the system.
Great, thank you. The next one is, will the applications from app volumes be visible in the Intelligent Hub?
Apps would be visible in the Intelligence Hub as we showed them with published apps, because of the fact that we are leveraging or enhancing, I guess is the best word, enhancing the process of how apps are delivered to the Windows system. All of the capabilities that allow you to launch apps off of Windows, including the ability to have published apps launch from Intelligent Hub, are available to you. So whether you give them to a desktop and they launch it and they see the app on the desktop, or whether you actually publish that app right into Intelligent Hub as a published app. So yes, the answer is yes, you can do that.
Great, thanks. And does an on-demand app show it is attached in AVM prior to a launch?
So it shouldn't if it's not if it's done on demand. So if the app is what we call classic, it'll be delivered at login and the user hasn't launched it yet. But if you do deliver the app or launch the app, which causes it to be delivered and then launch, there'll be a slight like second or so as it's being attached. You'll probably see it a split second before, but then the app's launched. So it's really the AVM the App Volumes Manager will show attached applications. And the way we've done the apps on demand is that the launch of the app is actually a blocking call to get the app delivered first. So I think that's kind of what the question was getting at. Hopefully that answered it.
Thank you. The next one we have is, how do you get the VMDK from the packaging service?
So if you use the packaging service that generates a VHD, we have a technology it comes with App Volumes tools. So when you install App Volumes, you have App Volumes Manager, App Volumes Agent, and App Volumes Tools. The tools is basically another version of the agent that has the App Capture EXE. You use the App Capture EXE / VMDK, and you provided the path to the VHD, and you can make yourself a VMDK. That VMDK can be uploaded to the App Volumes Manager in the PPV folder as a template, just like you would any other template. You can put it in PPV / I think it's apps, and that'll be in the documentation.
Great, thank you. Our next one is, can these apps be deployed to physical desktops and run on local CPU or GPU?
These apps right now, we don't have support for physical desktops. Keep posted. And that's something that we're researching right now. There's two components to that, which is the app virtualization, which we're working on, and that we're pretty making great progress on for persistent desktops. And then the other is the ability to deliver that app. And we're looking at, and we did a demo in Barcelona at VMware Explorer showing how we could deliver app volumes through Intune. That leads us to how do the bits get to the machine. And we just want to make sure that we support updates and have the appropriate stuff in place. So I definitely, we're all excited and want to get there. We're just making sure we got the right stuff in place before we release that.
Great. A few questions for this one. So which is better in terms of VMDK or VHD? Have you seen any issues with multiple apps being deployed or any issues at log off?
So it's kind of a double question here. Which is better, VMDK or VHD? Let's start there. It really depends. VMDKs are done from the hypervisor, so there's no SMB architecture. You're able to just use your existing vCenter architecture. So if you're a vCenter customer, that makes a lot of sense. If you're working in Azure, obviously we don't, unless you're using AVS, which is our vCenter on top of bare metal Azure. You probably don't have a vCenter, so therefore VHD is the best option for you, and that gives you the capability of file shares. I think VHDs are a lot more portable. I think VMDKs are on the infrastructure that you currently have if you're a vCenter customer. So it's really it's a toss up. From an agent perspective, we treat them the same. They're both on the same on the inside, and their performance should be the same once those are attached and delivered to the operating system. And then as far as issues at log off, we do our log off is typically a deletion of a VM So in our vSphere solution, we detach as part of that process, but then also the VM deletion will also effectively eject those disks. So it shouldn't be any issue there. As well as with VHD, the SMB connection is disconnected. So log off basically takes care of that. So hopefully that answers your question there.
Thank you. The next one we have is, will the auto-generated packaging machines be available for on-prem situations, and perhaps something that's on the roadmap for later?
So as I mentioned before, you can take those files and bring them on-prem. So that is something that you can do. Right now, I don't think we have a specific plan to bring that service as an on-prem solution. So there is that's a great question. There's no plan at the moment for that I know of. Although we always keep our options open as customers show us the need. But right now, you can do a similar thing either by automating yourself, or you can manage those VMs in vCenter. So the packagers that have access to vCenter can manage those and revert those VMs and use them as packaging VMs. The process is very similar once you're in the VM. There isn't any difference. The only difference is the automation of those VMs that we've done in the cloud, which is specific to our cloud solution.
Great, thanks. Do you have any insight as to how long it would take to package applications such as Adobe Suite?
How long does it take to package applications Adobe Suite? It really depends on your installation time. I did use Firefox because it is a faster app to deploy. For example, a longer app that takes longer to install would take longer to show you in a demo. It shouldn't be any slower because of app volumes. It's really the capture process, app capture. It's really just the process of the install that takes time there. So I think it's a matter of the install time.
Great. Are there any limitations on how many apps are attached to user sessions?
So right now we test at scale for 25 app packages where we used to we used to test around 5 and now we do 25 at scale, and that's thousands of users logging in 1 per second. We test just to make sure, and that's the classic mode where we're delivering a login. When you're on demand, you're not delivering those, and again, this is specific to VMDK because we're doing machine reconfigures. When you're doing on demand, it's actually only doing 1 app at a time, so it's a lot lighter on the login, so we don't see any activity at login if you do it on demand. And what we've tested is a full controller, where we now have, I think it's 64 disks on a controller, and you can have up to 4 controllers. I don't think with scale we've tested 4 controllers yet, but the idea is that in theoretical limits you could have upwards of 250 disks on a particular VM at a given time. Again, our testing has been 1 controller full to be able to use those applications.
Thanks. And the last one that we have might need a bit of clarification on this one, but we've got how many seconds will we expect to see when X number of apps are assigned to a session? What is better, attachment at session login or attachment to OU?
So I think either of those, and the whole point of this particular presentation was around apps on demand. So you can do attachment to an OU, which is a machine. You can do attachment to login, but these questions sound very familiar to our older technology where we had app stacks and app volumes before we had the apps on demand capability. So it sounds like a bit of knowledge there on our older product. At this point, apps on demand delivers the app when you click on it. So you could have 100 applications assigned to a user, and if they're only going to use 5 within their session over a period of time, it's only going to do those attachments for those 5 as they use those apps. So I think to hopefully answer your question there, I think it's not really about OUs, machine attachments or login. We're really talking about apps on demand at this point.
Thanks. We've just had one more come in. Will app stacks be going away in the future?
So I just published a blog article, so check it out. I talk about app stacks and our app layering technology there, and why we did abandon it, which is relevant to that previous question as well. So you'll see you'll see a lot more detail from that blog article, and that's planned for a year from that post of the blog article. We extended the 2.19 support for app stacks, and we moved the migration tools to help our existing customers move from 2.19. They can now go to App Volumes 4 with a migration tool that will help them take them there. And that migration tool is now part of the 2.19 download. So it is supported. It's something that you can get support on to help you do your migration. So you have about a year with your app stack. So we really appreciate customers with us on that journey with app stacks. And more importantly, we're excited to have you with on our journey with app packages and apps on demand.
Great, thanks, Jeff. I think that covers it for all of the questions. So thank you so much for your time today, Jeff. It's been really great to hear about apps everywhere and to see just how far app management has come. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. As we mentioned at the beginning, this presentation has been recorded and your TAM will be able to make the recording available to you in the coming days. Please join us next month when we'll be looking at infrastructure costing with ARIA operations and ARIA costs. We look forward to seeing you then. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.